Okay, so we will make start. A very good morning to you all. Ms. Gopika Beri, Managing Director of the 9 Training Center. Welcome. Ms. Alison Edgar, Ms. Dennise Oleary, Mr.
Now you can hear me.
Our speakers. Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Mohamed.
Yeah.
Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome.
Hussain, I cannot hear you.
We can hear you, Mohamed. Can you hear us?
Yes, we hear you, Mohamed. So a very warm welcome to you all, our distinguished speakers and distinguished audience. In this webinar titled Innovative Post-Corona Sales and Marketing Techniques to Boost Your Businesses. I'll be your host today, and my name is Hussain and Sharakhi. So please allow me first to wish you all blessed remaining days of the holy month of Ramadan and to give a short introduction to this webinar. Well, the coronavirus has impacted all of us, and certainly it has impacted lots and loads of businesses around the globe, in which some have closed down already and some are struggling to exist and facing numerous challenges, to the extent that governments worldwide started several initiatives to support such businesses in several forms. In some cases, we can see the form of grants given to businesses, in others it's loans offered, and in some countries it is the continuity plans and subsidies. Distinguished guests, no one disagrees that this pandemic has affected our ways of life. It has impacted all of us. It has certainly affected suppliers as well as buyers. It has affected all of us, whether we're categorized as sellers or we were categorized as consumers, or even if we represent organizations or simply we are individuals. Although some sectors were hit harder than others, for example, the hospitality, travel, tourism, and event industries, other sectors have benefited from this pandemic. For instance, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, medical technology, and of course, the general online industry. But regardless on how hard it has hit our businesses and industries, the light is coming out slowly. We can hear now from the news, we can read in the press that governments are planning to open up. Some countries, of course, have already started that process. Therefore, we are slowly moving towards the post-corona peaks period. Hence, we all realize the importance of this webinar and its title. During this period, ladies and gentlemen, consumer buying behaviors have been changed. Customers' priorities have been shifted as well and is continuously being shifted. Purchasing power has been affected one way or another. So we would like in this productive webinar to emphasize on some tools, techniques, and tactics to assist all our distinguished guests who are joining us today from around the globe to boost their marketing efforts, strengthen their sales strategies, and certainly service their customers better and better. With the presence of 3 international award-winning speakers and experts, whom I will introduce very shortly, and an amazing future-oriented organizers who will shortly give their welcome speeches, we are all here to share knowledge, expertise, and support you all now through this webinar and in the future post this webinar. We will make a start with the welcome speeches and listen to the tips and advice on speakers. And of course, how can you interact with the speakers and engage with them and ask your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, the 9 Training Center, through both its branches in Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, the UAE, have started a knowledge sharing and community engagement initiative under the leadership of Her Excellency Sheikh Noura bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, the chairwoman of the 9 Training Center, and a leader who truly believes in the future. As well as Her Excellency, I would like to highlight the support and the non-stop mission that Ms. Gopika Beri has put in to bring international experts together to shape the training sector and certainly to underline trending topics that help different segments of the market through her dedication and commitment to introduce a bi-monthly live Instagram sessions which are dedicated to the youth, students, teenagers, and employers, or through webinars like this one, which are provided to managers, entrepreneurs, leaders, business owners, and executives. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Gopika Beri, the Managing Director of the 9 Training Sector.
Thank you very much, Hussain. A very warm welcome to all our distinguished guests from around the globe and to our international speakers. I am extremely grateful to all of them for having joined us today to share their valuable tips and strategies on how we should move forward during these difficult times. And we would like also to thank all the viewers for having taken this time during this difficult times to come and join us on this webinar. So I hand over now to Hussain to introduce our distinguished speakers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Gopika, in welcoming and your warm welcome and the wonderful advice that you have given. And before I introduce our speaker, ladies and gentlemen, please note that there are 3 ways of interacting with speakers. One can kindly raise their virtual hands to interact verbally by voice with the speakers, whether after their speeches directly, if there is enough time, that speakers would initiate that, or of course during the open discussion session at 12:20. Also, you can use the question and answers options all through this webinar period, where you can write your questions and our distinguished speakers will answer them directly during their speeches or afterwards. And finally, please do not hesitate to interact with all the speakers through the chat option, which is available below. Distinguished audience, we all may have heard of the term 4 Ps or the 7 Ps of marketing when we studied or during our period in the university or at businesses and training sessions. Yet, our next 2 speakers will draw attention to the essential 5 Ps of marketing and sales, which is giving a holistic approach that covers both marketing and sales. These 7 Ps, these 5 Ps, these 5 essential Ps of marketing and sales that we can all benefit from. The first 2 Ps which would be on productize and promotion would be important tactics to be used by all of us to market our products and services. And these 2 Ps from the 5 will be delivered by our first speaker, an international award-winning marketing and bid writing expert. She is an author and a speaker as well, Ms. Dennise Oleary. Ms. Dennise is the founder and owner of Purple Marketing and has over 25 years of marketing experience in demanding business environments. Purple Marketing, her company, are bid writing and marketing strategy experts holding an impressive 95% win rate. And Dennise is a multi-international award-winning marketeer and business developer. Dennise engages with audiences to share knowledge on how businesses can win critical bids, as well as marketing their brands to win businesses. She speaks internationally on effective marketing, and she is the author of Amazon #1 bestseller titled Winner: How to Win Business Awards. Dennise measures her success by how much her clients win. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dennise on the first topic, the 5 essential P's for marketing and sales, productize and promotion.
Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all virtually from the West Country in lovely England. So let me get underway with the presentation, and I will now attempt to share my screen. So let's just see that we can get up the presentation, share. So hopefully this is working for you all. If you can all give a nod to say, is it working okay? And this is going to be the essential 5 P's of marketing. And we are actually going to cover the 7 P's as well within the marketing spectrum, but these are the most essential ones that you need in our current environment. So what are we going to look at when we're productizing? Well, actually, productizing means monetizing. So you might have a business whereby you have products, or you might have a business where you're sharing knowledge and it's a service business. But whichever way, you definitely need to monetize your products and your knowledge in these times. So there's 4 basics when you're trying to grow or even maintain a business. The first one is you can increase your number of customers. So more of the same, buying the same things in the same way. Then you can increase the number of time each individual one does business with you. So increasing the frequency. The next option is to increase the average transaction value, so they buy more from you. And then latterly, increasing your effectiveness and efficiency. So basically that's looking at your costs, keeping revenue generating activity, but then looking at what you can do to reduce your overhead. We would recommend that you do a SWOT analysis to look at your business, and I'm sure you're very familiar with what that is. The strengths and weaknesses are internal to your business, and the opportunities and threats are external. Now, we're all suffering from a massive external threat environment currently. So what we do need to do is look at opportunities within the broader market and align the strengths of our businesses with those. So why is strategy important? Well, actually, it's about finding prospects and turning them into customers. That's vital for you to be able to do so that you can actually say, yeah, I'm tuned in people and I'm converting them into paying customers. And in these times, it's about improving what you offer, and that's in terms of your product and your service. But one thing we're suffering from at the moment is the speed of change. It is radically different than had been the case before. People are now moving online in vast numbers, majorly because they've had no choice if they didn't trade that way before. And then we're finding things like security issues, connectivity issues. So speed of change is definitely one of those that we all need to be aware of. But one thing you do need to do is look at what is your company's reason for existence. So analyse what products and services do you actually provide. And you want to create a trigger in people's memory. This is about how is it they make that link between the product that you might have had and the one that you're evolving to. So bring that back and think of your mission and vision. What are your values? Why does your company exist? Why did you found it in the first place? What is your passion? And we would say always be memorable. Far better to be important in a niche and known for a very specific thing than to spread yourself too thin, because if you try to be all things to all people, you won't be much to anybody. So keep it niche. And that leads us to what makes you the red apple amongst the green apples. Well, you need that standout. What benefit do you give your customers? Understand what it is that you give them. Believe that that's actually got a great value for them. Let them tell you that. Ask your customers, what great value do I give you? And that's where you transverse yourself to position yourself as an expert. If you're an expert in your field, you will be the one that's known on that subject, and they will be finding you based on that. And what do you do better than anybody else? Everybody's got unique skills. Don't try to imitate anybody else. Be the best as a version of you. We then move on to the target market identification. So I'm sure many of you know about B2B and B2C as the customer type, but there are many other ways. So is it private or public sector? What customer type do they have in terms of their attributes of their demographic, their geographic? Understand all that, because actually you want to know in the finest detail who your clients are. Who is your ideal customer? What things do they have? Where are they located? What product mix do they buy from you? How much do they contribute to your own turnover? How important are they to the survival of your business? And when you understand what attributes they have, you really need to understand who is your perfect customer. So imagining that scene, who is it their perfect customer, but understand what their challenges are, because you want to be of service to them with the product and the knowledge that you provide. You need to answer that critical question, how can I help you? And that translates to, why do you need to choose me to help you? And what are the new ways to serve them? Look at that as a strategy for how you develop and productize your business. So how can you productize? Well, actually, there's a few ways of doing it. You could look at producing books or ebooks. Online courses are fabulous for sharing knowledge, and you could do that. If you were a mechanic, you could do how-to guides on how to mend a car. If you're a fitness instructor, you could show people top tips for warm up and warm down, or exercises for a given need. So every knowledge expert that there is can produce an online course, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more in depth. PR and thought leadership is also important. Publish your views, become known, keep that noise level. Let people understand you're communicating regularly. And that actually links to things like remote consultancy. We're on Zoom today, there's Teams, there's multiple other platforms, but you can have that relationship with people even if you can't see them face to face. Webinars and online networking, again, superb for relationship building, for consulting, for strategy, for providing service. And then leveraging your new markets and your new clients. As we said, the 4 basics at the beginning. What are you going to do to get to those new clients, and how can you do that? Now, if we're talking about our online customers, how do we actually get to those people? Great way is an online course, but when you're creating an online course, the course must solve a very specific problem. You've got to enable your audience to actually deliver results from it. So it should have a clear system and a process. Your content needs to be clearly focused on engagement with whichever audience the course is targeting. And a successful course not only delivers revenue, but positions you as an expert. So as part of the armory that you're creating as your business for the future, how is it you're going to position yourself as an expert moving forward? You've also got the chance to upsell additional offers. So for example, if you've got one product service being covered, we've got a course on magnificent marketing. And actually, I also provide a course on how to bid. So you can mention the other courses within your course, and that's an upsell of your offer. You can also then provide consultancy time, but importantly, enables you to build your community. And also, the very basics of an online course is you're doing it to help others get results. So think about that when you're creating your course. And then we're going to talk about how is it promoting your business works. Well, as we said earlier, promotion is one of the 7 P's of marketing. And what we've done today is look at the essential 5 P's of marketing and sales. And we've put a twist on them because pivot, positivity aren't in the traditional 7 P's as such. And we're just showing you now which ones marketing traditionally has had. And you'll be very familiar with all of these. The place that you make the offer, your product, the price, the people that deliver it, the processes that you deliver it by, and the physical evidence that people are used to you dealing with in that delivery frame that you provide your service or your product. But today we're talking about promotion, and that really is about acquiring new customers. So how do you do that? Well, if you're acquiring new customers, there's some very specific methods you can use, and you will probably do a mixture of these already. So in promotion, you've got direct marketing, advertising and social promotion. You've got the ability to create referrals. Membership schemes and associations are also great. And then you may have inbound inquiries, and these could be through your website, someone calling you, an email, maybe you've got a form on your website or your social media channels, contact us, comments, etc. So there's lots of ways that people can find new clients. When you're promoting to them, there's going to be a few specific things that you need to do. Well, you do really need to tell them what you do and what you offer. And it's very easy to forget that when you're in a business. You kind of assume that everybody knows what you do, but actually they might not. So you will need to show your branding, your advertising, your social media channels, and make sure if you're making offers, it's clear what that offer is. You might be at exhibitions. At the moment they're virtual. Hopefully in the future they'll be face-to-face again. Make sure you understand what is actually gaining attention and what's appealing. And you can do that by testing. But one thing you definitely need to make sure is that your message is consistent and you're creating dialogue. That is key with your audience. So give your customer the reason to choose your product. That's what your promotion is designed to do. In the activity that you can undertake, well, there's lots of things you can do. You may have tried telemarketing, you might be doing Facebook advertising, there could be a lead magnet, lots of things that you can do. All of these I'm sure you're familiar with, but look at how they're joined up. How does one influence the other? How are you putting that consistent messaging out there? And you've got to understand and use the traditional channels too, if they are of value to you. And I do say that because you need to understand which ones develop the greatest value for your business. Don't forget those traditional marketing channels, such as paid advertising. It might be really pertinent for you at the moment. Have a look at that. But you could create a landing page specifically targeted to an offer, and that might drive the audience to a very certain page on your website. You might have a download a free ebook or look at our top tips. All of these are great ways of looking at what you're going to do. Definitely you need to look at your mailing list. Is it current? Is it compliant? Has it got the right people on it? And you need to reconnect with your past respondents. A lot of people actually just lose touch with their past clients, and they might have a great reason to buy from you again. So keep in contact with them and test everything. Copy, images, headlines, which audience you're sending it to. But please remember, only change one element at a time. If you're trying to understand your test results and you change everything in one go, you won't know what contributed to the difference. So A/B testing one element at a time. When you're looking at your promotion for marketing, you really do need to get yourself a content library and actually set yourself a calendar. You might need seasonal sales promotions, so something focused on a given season, so Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, festivals, etc. Look at all of those. You could have a new product launch or a bundle of offers, and that works really well for many businesses, putting things together so that it performs a wider service than one product would on its own. If you've got a system, put your activity into the system and schedule it. If you haven't, create yourself a spreadsheet. Anything you can do just to keep your content in order so you know what's coming and when. And really, you do need to write the benefits of your approach. What is it that you're going to do? And what are our hints for that? Well, play to your strengths. How do you offer better value? What's your USP? Make sure you look great on your paper. Make your strengths clear in everything that you deliver. And evidence really matters. Show how you work. Provide it with evidence. And what do we mean by that? Things like your reviews, your testimonials, every point of evidence that you've got to show how it is that you're a great business. And customer loyalty is really key within that process. So they want a positive experience. They want satisfaction, and that delivers that perceived value. And actually, it's a strange thing, customer loyalty. It's a blend of the physical, the emotional, and the value elements. And Alison will be covering a lot of those later. Make sure you've got them all in your mix. And retaining customers is less expensive than acquiring new ones. So there's a very good reason for keeping loyal customers. Some books say 4 times, some say up to 20 times more expensive to acquire a new client than retain an existing one. So love the clients that already love you. Loyal customers also buy more, they're cheaper to manage, and they're more likely to recommend you to someone else. So bear that in mind when you're loving your customers. And they're great brand advocates. Their testimonials are very powerful. Now, if you say you're a great business, people might go, fabulous, maybe you are. If someone else says you're a great business, it's got so much greater value. So what should you do now? What's the immediate things you need to do? Well, look at the problem your customers have and work out how your offer, you can pivot your offer to productize it, you promote it so you solve that problem. Make sure you humanize your brand. You've got to be relatable in these times. People need to know the person behind the business. So build that into your messaging. Be authentic and genuine. This is really, really key at the moment. People do not like profiteering. They don't want someone to take advantage of the situation. So be authentic and genuine. Show that you're trying to help. Understand how you can sell your product or service in this current new normal. What has changed? What's your environment like? What are your channels? What are your routes to market? If you understand those, then you can actually leverage what you're going to do. And also really important, be inspirational. Be that good business friend. If someone needs your help, give it willingly. Work out how it is that you can be the one that charges forward, and then everybody can grow their business together. So we have got a special offer for you today as well, if you're interested. We really want to help you, and we've productized our knowledge. So I guess Alison and I are the advocates of what we're saying. We've got online courses, so there's Magnificent Marketing, there's Secrets of Successful Sales, and both of our award-winning books. You can see here the package is normally worth $255, and we're doing it today for $99. So if you'd like that, we'd love to be able to help your business. But really what we want to do, more importantly, is to reach out to you and say, yes, you can do it. You're a fabulous business. Just look at a new way of achieving in the new normal. And if you'd like to connect with me, here are all my social channels. Please send me a message and I'd be delighted to hear from you. So thank you very much. My name is Dennise Oleary and I can help with any marketing or bid writing requirements.
Thank you, Dennise, for the fruitful advice and the marketing tips, and of course, the first 2 P's of the essential 5 P's of marketing and sales. These were very helpful and fruitful indeed. Distinguished
Thank
guests.
you very much. It's been an honor to be involved today.
Absolutely. Distinguished guests, I am sure you're all waiting for the other 3 P's, which Dennise has talked about briefly and introduced to the next session. These would be positivity, pivot, and proactivity. These 3 smart techniques would be delivered to you by a twice voted one of the UK's top 10 business advisors, speaker, and international #1 best-selling author. Ms. Alison Edgar is the founder of Sales Coaching Solutions and is also known as the entrepreneur's godmother. She has over 25 years of experience in blue chip sales, and her clients' base ranges from well-known startups like The Apprentice and Dragon Den's winners through to large conglomerates like the Discovery Channel, Sky, Equifax, and the European Commission. Because of her vast knowledge, she is asked to consult with government at 10 Downing Street in the UK. And as a thank you for her work, she was invited to Buckingham Palace to the Queen's Garden Party. She is regularly invited to contribute her opinions on BBC TV and radio about the future of business around the world. Her debut book, Secrets of Successful Sales, was launched in March 2018 and has been an Amazon #1 around the world, a W.H. Smith top 10 business books, and voted by the Independent newspaper as one of the best business books written by a woman. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Alison on this topic of the 5 essential P's for marketing and sales: positivity, pivot, and proactivity, in which I'm sure you will all benefit from. Alison?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dennise. Thank you to everyone there at the Nine Centre training, and to Mr. Hussain for that lovely introduction. Sometimes I have to pinch myself, to be honest, when I hear people say the things that has happened in my life. And I think that feeds into productivity. What I am going to do is I'm going to try and share my screen with you to give you some slides around sales. So if we have a little look, where am I? Hang on 2 seconds, move that across. So as Dennise said, you've got your traditional P's of marketing, but we've kind of added some extra P's in for the situation that we're in, because we never really thought that this was ever going to happen. So before I sort of carry on with that, I'm going to say I'm actually Scottish, so my accent is slightly different to Dennise's and potentially slightly harder to understand. So I'll speak a little bit slower so that you can catch the content. So positivity, why is it so imperative at the moment for your business to be positive? Well, I think, again, it feeds through on mindset. And one of the questions that I get asked about a lot at the moment, is it the right time to sell? And 100%, I answer the same answer every time. It has to be the right time to sell, because if you don't sell, you don't have a business. So you can sell empathetically, and it's interesting because Mr. Mohamed will be talking after me. And one of the things I teach is around when it's delivered correctly, sales and customer service is exactly the same thing. So it's not about pushy sales. It's not about, again, manipulative sales. It's not about profiteering sales, but ultimately you need to be able to sell as if it's a customer service. So I think one of the things I'm seeing out in the marketplace at the moment, and Dennise touched on it beautifully, was we have to change the way we do things. And for some people, that's easier than others. When I did the research, again, when I speak at large organizations, I speak about intrapreneurship. So to get employees to think like entrepreneurs and how to do things differently. And one of the things that holds a lot of people back is actually the fear of change. Now, it's been interesting watching Mr. Hussain trying to pronounce conglomerates. For me, this is one of my tricky words, metathesiophobia. So it's an actual fear of change. So I think, again, you know, feeding into what Dennise said, a lot of people at the moment are used to doing face-to-face sales, or they're used to doing things, again, in a more one-to-one environment in the real world. And we've had to move to Zoom. We've had to do things differently. And it has put a lot of panic into people. So I think the main thing is to try and stop the panic. Now, in lockdown, one of the things I felt at the start of lockdown, we were given a gift of time. But I don't know, we're now something like almost 2 months in, and my time seems to have been evaporating. So what I have done is I've been learning some new things. I'm writing my second book, which is based on my TEDx. And I'm having to learn why are people got a fear of change? Why are people stopping selling? Why are they doing that? So I've been reading Dr. Steve Peters' book, The Chimp Paradox. And I've been trying to gain more knowledge around positivity in the brain. So again, I'm not going to go through his whole book, but I would recommend reading it, The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters. And he talks about the different sides to our brain. So he talks about our logical brain, and he talks about our chimp brain. So I call it the voice in my head. And I hope, like, for everyone seems to be able to relate to this little voice, the voice that says, you can't do that. You shouldn't be doing this. Oh, you shouldn't be selling. Oh, are you being hard on people? Are you not being empathetic enough? And this is the voice that's holding us back. So I think it's really important, you know, to identify at the moment that when the voice does creep in, the coping mechanism is just to say, stop, no, stop now. This is not my logical brain. how can I overcome this? So I think, again, identifying it is a real strength to positivity. I sat in on the well-being seminar that Miss Gopika arranged, and there was a lot of the psychology behind why we feel so difficult to sell in these times. So again, based on Carol Dweck's studies, there's lots of different sides of mindset, but the one that I love is based on Carol Dweck. So she talks about a fixed mindset. I'm either good at this or I'm not. And sales, I think, is one of those interesting topics. I'm going to talk about the difference between sales and marketing. But people seem to love marketing. They love digital marketing. They love mail shot. They love social media. They love Instagram. They love it all. Look, Dennise is going, yay! They love marketing. But when it comes to sales, a lot of people think, oh, I'm not good at that. I can't do that. I don't like that. And again, it sits in a fixed mindset. So I think, again, really getting to understand the different types of mindsets is really important, because if you don't think you're good at it and you don't love it, you will never reach your full potential. So if we look, again, sale is now a really good time when people do have a little bit more time, although I still hope my time arrives because it still evaporates. But I can learn new things. So I've mentioned that I've learned more about the psychology of the brain and how it affects sales. Also, again, exactly what Dennise has said, with a growth mindset, really revisiting what you were doing previously. Who are your customers? Why did they buy? What could they potentially buy from you? How can you access new products? How can you create new things to sell? And again, I'm going to cover that during this session. But the main thing that you have to do to get through this, not only from a sales, marketing, or well-being perspective, is you have to sit in a growth mindset. So let me give you my little tips on how to do that. And I think it relates into really starting with the thing you think you can't do. And again, that might be perceived as being negative. But for me, one thing that wasn't announced in my introduction by Mr. Hussain is I'm actually dyslexic. And for those of you who don't know much about dyslexia, it's actually it's a learning disability. So we learn differently. It doesn't mean that we're not intelligent, but we struggle with academia, so retention of information. So you'll see again in my slides, there's not a lot of words because a lot of my content comes from my heart and passion because of the way I retain. So I could, if I sat in a fixed mindset, think I'm not good at this, but I have to sit in growth. So let me tell you the story about the book. The book came about because I can't write. And I had a team of girls, young people who worked for me, who were academic English literature graduates, and they would come in and say, I'm going to write a blog. And I'd go, great, because I can't write, I'm dyslexic. And I think it comes from when I was at school, we had to read out loud in class. And I can still now taste the fear in my mouth when it was my turn. For years, I thought I couldn't do it. Until one day, I said, stop! Who tells me I can't write? Oh yes, that's the voice in my head. That's the chimp, the voice telling me I can't do it. And eventually I started to write. And not only did I write, I wrote this. I wrote Secrets of Successful Sales, and the book went on to be a #1 bestseller around the world. And again, it was featured in magazines. It's got 131 5-star reviews. So my point to tell you this is that the days you think you can't sell, you can do anything you want if you overcome the voice in your head and have a growth mindset, and that's how you stay positive. So here's a little tip for you. When you think you can't sell, the voice tells you, it makes you feel apprehensive and anxious to sales. You're worried to start conversations because you worry about what people think. and you'll be nervous and anxious, then you'll behave and you'll shy away from sales. You'll stay in Denise's corner. You'll stay with marketing. I need you to actually turn it around. So today, when you came off this webinar, after you have heard Mr. Mohamed and we've done questions at the end, I need you to think, I can sell. The time is now, and you'll feel excited to have conversations with your customers, and actually you will be positive, you will be inspirational, and they will want to buy from you. So the secret to successful sales actually lies within you. So pivot. You know, Dennise has given us some amazing tips for people out there who have got service industries. We can create product and productize. But what happens if you have got a product business? So I have got a client, Alana Spencer, who won The Apprentice back in 2016, and she makes cakes. Delicious cakes. Now, I've done some work in Kuwait and in Dubai, and I know that you guys love food. I've had some of the nicest food in the Middle East that I've had in my whole life. But she sold through markets, face-to-face markets, and she had a team of ambassadors, which obviously can't happen. But one thing which is huge at the moment is the gifting market. So because the gifting market is so large, you know, can you sell to get into gifting? Can you do something different? So I challenge you to look for different ways. But again, Dennise has touched on this. But one thing I really want to clear up with you guys is I know loads of people struggle with the difference between sales and marketing. And you'll see, again, to share a little story, Dennise and I met about 7 years ago. We live in the same town. We didn't know each other. Look, I think you'll agree, we kind of look like sisters. We've got the hair, Dennise wears purple, I wear pink, she does marketing, I do sales. So at a glance, we can be seen as similar. And this is the same as sales and marketing. So how I explain it is like golf, okay? So marketing, put the tee in the ground and put the ball in the tee. They line it up. That's our website, our mail shots, our social media. They kind of get people to know the brand. Then us in sales, we take the ball down the fairway, put it on the green and put the ball in the hole, because only when the ball goes in the hole do you make any money. Now, I know Dennise is sitting there shaking her head. She goes, that's so wrong. What happens is, us in marketing, me, Dennise, we put the ball right down to the hole, and you sales guys tap it in and take all the glory. But if your marketing is good, that's how easy it is to sell. So sales start to come into play when we're having phone calls, one-to-one conversations, getting contracts signed. The marketing make the brand awareness. But what happens for things like Amazon, eBay? Actually, that's not sales at all. That's a hole-in-one for marketing. And I think that's a bit like the eureka point. We all want to put our online courses online, or we all want to put our products online. People just jump in and buy them. But without the marketing activity, that doesn't happen. But it doesn't need the phone call or the meeting. So hopefully that makes sense. Another pivot is, again, looking at wholesaling. Wholesaling is a great way, but that's sales and marketing working together. So hopefully that gives you more clarity, because I find that's one of the things that people don't understand at the best of times, let alone in a pandemic. So proactivity, this is my word. You know, we've taken the traditional P's that you learn at university or in workplace, and we've added our own pink and purple P's. So proactivity. It's really important now, not just to reach out to your customers, but really consider their budgets. So they may have budgets for whatever it was you were selling. So proactively asking them things like, so out of interest, and again, Mr. Hussain touched on hospitality and tourism. So how have your sales been affected by the pandemic? And if they say, well, they've been reduced, by what percentage, and how does that affect your event budget, or how does that affect your budget for stayaways or retreats? How has that been affected it? Because again, running a business is a little bit like being on a diet. The more you exercise, the less you eat, the thinner you become. In business, the more you sell, the less you spend, the more profit you make. So that's where really understanding what's going on in your client's head is imperative, because you can only sell what they need. Otherwise, it's not great customer service. Really looking at your data. So Dennise touched on it, you know, you get more reoccurring revenue from your existing clients. It's harder to acquire new ones. So look at your data. I'm going to give you a little tip on that, and the plan. But every time you're reaching out, what's the purpose? So many people are reaching out just to find out how people are, and that's great. But from a business perspective, it needs to have a purpose. If you have got something that will make their business better, you have to get involved and make that part of the purpose. So I don't know whether this is a cultural thing, but bingo. Do you have bingo in the Middle East? Does anybody know what bingo is? Mohamed, do you know what bingo is? Miss Gopika? Bingo?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
good. Okay, so this is good. So again, coming back to Dennise's point, I like to come up with fun sales strategies. So for example, if we put client would be ABC company, and they currently buy 2 of your products, then what you would do is you would be proactively engaging with them to see if they could buy any more. But by asking them, like for us, we've got online courses, we've got live seminars, we've got webinars, we've got, so, out of interest, while you're in lockdown and your team can't perform their duties, how are you currently training them? We know that coming out of during lockdown, people are really struggling with mental health. How are you providing services that can enhance their day-to-day in lockdown? So again, good questions help you play bingo. So that feeds into the marketing strategy as well. So again, feeding into what Dennise has said, I think it's important that if you believe that what you offer is a great customer service, that you offer it, it's okay to sell, it's okay. And the reason that we have put some offers in here is to A, help you if you need help, but B, to give you confidence and inspire you that it is okay to do business at the moment, that we will, as a world economy, have to treat sales, and how I refer to sales. If we think about hand sanitizer is the savior of hygiene. It's saving lives. Sales is the savior of the world economy. If we all stop trading, we will have nothing to go back to at the back end. So if you wanted any one-to-one consultation with Dennise and I, as well as the products, which are the books and the online courses, we can definitely do something for you. If you email me, Alison at alisonedgar.com, or you can contact me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. I've been Alison Edgar, and I'm finishing actually bang on time. I've been told that I'm allowed to take 1 question now, and then the rest of the questions at the end. So if anybody has got a question, if you put it in Q&A, I can answer it now before we hand over to the amazing Mr. Mohamed Isa. It looks like there's no questions, so that's fine. We can do them all at the end.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alison, for this fruitful session as well. And thanks for sharing your story, which led to the amazing book. And certainly now the jigsaw is completed with the 5 essential P's for marketing and sales. Now we realize why these 3 elements were added, because they focus on the clients with positivity, pivot, and proactivity. Now, we're ahead of time, ahead of schedule. Please allow me to introduce our next session. Distinguished guests, since we've covered those marketing and sales I can see some hands here. Can I see some hands, perhaps? No, it was only a question, Alison. It was a question on chat. Can we have a copy of the presentation? Yeah, we will share a copy of the presentation later on. If you contact us through the 9 Training Center, you will find the emails later on at the last stage. So no questions to Alison in this period. If there is no questions, we will move on. So since marketing and sales pieces of Jigsaw have been completed, there is an important element, which is service. This element, if it's missing, our efforts, whether it's marketing and sales, would be undermined. So let me ask you a couple of questions, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever wanted to have more customers? Do you wish you could have more cash in the bank? And would you like to have more vacations? As a host, I would say yes. But if you answered yes, you will be glad to be here. If you answered no, you are in serious denial. Our speaker today, he was a C-level executive in banking. He is a 4-time Amazon best-selling author, and he has appeared on CBS News in Washington, D.C. He is happily married and is blessed with 3 kids, Dana, Abdullah, and Ali, who are cool and calm. Are they, Mohamed, cool and calm? So please help me, ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming Mohamed Isa.
Thank you, Hussain. Thank you, Hussain. And thank you, Dennise and Alison. I wish I could say we all have similar hair. Well, I couldn't. All right. So, service is the sale. I'm sure most of you hear this expression that the change is the only constant. Change is the only constant. Yeah. I would change it today to service is the only constant, because service is important. It was important prior to Corona. It's important during Corona, and it would be important post-Corona. So get your service right to get more cash in the bank. What I'm planning to do is I'll share with you a few stories on service. And I was planning to share 3 stories. Can we mute all? Can we mute all participants, because I can hear some not the fan. I'm not hearing the fan today. All right. I was planning to share 3 stories, but Dennise, you reminded me of something. So before, it's almost 20 years since I lost my hair. Yeah. And you talked about the importance of creating memories in the minds of customers, and I'd like to share a story about that. In 2002, I had the best haircut ever. It was in Jeddah. I was working in Jeddah at that time in Saudi Arabia. The hairdresser was a Tunisian national. He gave me the best haircut ever. And I still remember it until today. So it's very important to keep that in mind when we engage with our customers. Are we just pushing a product to them, or are we pushing an experience that will remain with them for a long time? So this is 2002, we are 2020, it's 18 years. I still remember that haircut. Unfortunately, I cannot go back to the same hairdresser because now I don't need his services. Now let's talk about service. And the first thing I want to talk about is companies, banks, organizations. They are very good in producing policies, code of conduct, best practices, manuals. But I'll tell you something, customers don't care about all of these things if you don't deliver the right service. Whether you have a policy that is 100 page or 50 page or I don't know, 350 pages, they don't care about these things. I'll tell you what I like to do. In Bahrain, we have the old Manama souk. It's a traditional souk. It's a fantastic place to hang around. And when the weather is pleasant, I like to go and walk around, explore the narrow alleys and explore the shops. We have shops that still exist from 1911 in that souk. So when you exist all this time, that tells you something. That tells you they are doing something right. So one day I found this hidden gem. It's a small shop. They provide service. And when I looked at their shop, I thought this is the best policy I've seen in my life when it comes to customer service. And they are a cargo company, and this is their policy. We deliver cargo, not excuses. Simple. Yeah? As customers, we want you to deliver on the promise. As simple as that. We don't care about the policies you have because I've dealt with banks and I know how many policies the banks have because I used to work in a bank. And the service is so terrible from the security guards that are manning the gate until the CEO. How can you survive as a bank if this culture is permeating the whole levels of the organization? So be like this cargo company, deliver cargo, not excuses. We need you to deliver what you promise to deliver to us. Now, that was one story. Now, I always enjoy these kind of sessions, whether in person or in virtual, because I believe we learn best when we interact with each other. Yes, you can go to Google, you can go to YouTube, but when I talk to people, these are the stories that I get. And I'm now, since I'm excited, all these stories are popping into my head. So I'll share now another story that was not planned, okay? But after this story. Every day, we have breakfast, my friend and I, in one of the local traditional coffee shops, and every day we have people sit next to us and we introduce each other and we chat and we get to know each other. So I met this gentleman with his wife, and this gentleman, his family owns a fast-growing appliances company in Bahrain. And they are so rich in cash. Recently, they acquired a tech company. Can you imagine? And they were built on a solid foundation. And this is a story that comes from the son, from the father who established this business. So one day the son came to his father and said, "Father, can you help me with this customer? This customer is moving to a new house, a big house, and they need around 20 air conditioners. Can you go to him and I'll just be with your customer?" His father said, no, you go to the customer with the big order. I'll continue with this customer that I have. When this was all done, the son went to his father. He said, "Dad, I'm perplexed. We had someone who wanted to buy 20 ACs. Anywhere behind this little customer who wanted to buy a single gas burner stove. Can I understand why are you doing this?" His father told him something. It was a pearl of wisdom, really. He told him, "Look, that little stove in the future will bring the 20 ACs. So when you treat the customer right, even when they have a small order, they will remember you and they'll come back when they have big orders." Now, I always like to link this story with another story. I was not planning to share this story with you, but why not? Why not? We're having fun. So, again, I was walking in Manama Souk with a friend of mine, and participants from Bahrain, you know this shop very well. We were going to have Alu Bashir in Manama. Alu Bashir is a Pakistani outlet that sells fried potato in a certain way. You cannot have this in the UK. I'm sorry. You need to come to Bahrain to experience it. So we were walking to buy the alu, the potatoes, and we were talking about customer service in general. So my friend told me, "Oh, have you heard about this story before?" I said, "What story?" He said, "Look, so-and-so, I cannot mention who's so-and-so, but I'll give you a hint later on. So-and-so went to the Rolls-Royce dealership, but so-and-so does not wear nicely. You know, he's in shorts and T-shirts. If you see him, you cannot say this is a multi-millionaire. You cannot say that." So he went to the Rolls-Royce dealership in Bahrain, and he saw a convertible Rolls-Royce, a white one. I don't know what brand. I'm not planning to buy a Rolls-Royce. I don't have that kind of money yet. So this Rolls-Royce sells for around 400,000 pounds. That's almost 200,000 dinars in Bahraini dinars. So he asked the salesman, "Excuse me, does this car come in red interior?" Can you guess what was the reply? The salesman told him, I don't think you have enough money to buy a single tire, let alone to buy this car." Yeah, that's what happened. This salesman did not recognize this very rich millionaire. And there was a big chaos in their dealership on that day. So sometimes we should not judge the customers from how they look, how they dress. You never know who you're talking to. And this is a big lesson to me and to all of us, that we should never judge people from the way they looked. So service is the sale. Remember, service is the sale. So that day, the owner of the dealership had to call this rich man, apologize, and they offered him a huge discount so that he doesn't go to another luxurious dealership and buy another car. So we need to be careful when we deal with customers. Now, this was not planned, but I thought, why not? It's fun. All right, now, both Dennise and Dennise and Alison, they talked about books, and I like books. I love books. In fact, I'm on a mission to graduate 1,000 authors through the production of collaborative books. So far, I have published 3. I'm into the 4th now. Gopika is with me in all 3 books. Let's give her a hand. Yeah, Gopika has been with me since the beginning. So let me tell you about what I call the silent complaint. The silent complaint is when you give really bad service and the customer decides to just move away and give their business to someone else. And this is what happened to me. So after I printed this book, The DNA of Development, I thought I found a partner that will print all my future books. So when I approached this press again to print my 2nd book, which is this one, startup with 42 authors from around the world, I approached the same press house. I told them, I have this book, I want to print it. Can you give me options for the interior designs? So they gave me 3 options, and I did not like any of them. So I resorted to a friend of mine who's a graphic designer. He said, I told him, can you do something? Can you come up with a better design? And he did. So what I did, when the book was finished, fully edited, I sent the text to the press house. And 5 minutes later, I received a call from the operations director in the press house. He said, Mohamed, I received your text. And I received the template, the design template for the chapters. And this is not one of the ones we sent you. I said, yeah, it's an improved version of what you gave me. He said, no, we cannot work with this. Either you work with our designs or we cannot do this. Or if you want to print with us, you go back to the person who did this design and tell that person to make the full book in the same format. I told him, look, this person, he did it to me as a favor, and I want to follow the new design. It looks better. Ultimately, I want my books to look better when they are in the hands of the readers. He said, no, no, no. Unless you take one of our designs, we cannot do this. I said, you know what? Let me think about this, and I'll call you tomorrow. And I never called. I went to another supplier, and I printed two books with this supplier, and I'm planning to print more books. And I'm planning to help 1,000 authors to become published through collaborative books. So it means I'm printing 30 books in the future. I don't know how long this will take, but 30 books. And 30 books, if I do the math, this translates into $250,000 in terms of printing jobs. So that supplier lost that amount, and they lost the referrals that I was planning to give them for the future. If someone asks me, where do you print your books? I can always give them their contacts and help them close the sales easily. Now, I'd like to conclude with this. And I'm sure Alison and Dennise, they support the statement that I'll make now. Ultimately, any salesperson would like to escape the sales process, the process of prospecting, qualifying prospects, assessing their needs, and doing all the meetings, doing all the calls, doing all the emails. Ultimately, as sales individuals, we want to have our sale come from two sources: repeat business and referrals. And without good service, without excellent service, you cannot get that. So I'd like to conclude with the statement that I made in the beginning. Service is the only constant. Prior to Corona, during Corona, post-Corona, get it right, and you'll get more cash into the bank. Try it, it will work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mohamed, for the amazing stories and absolutely emphasizing the importance of service. And indeed, service is absolutely sales. And with all these three elements, marketing, sales, and service, we have the jigsaw completed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have an open discussions and Q&A. Please, I will re-emphasize the ways that you can interact with the audience. You can raise your hand for verbal interaction and engagements. If you have a question that you would like to ask verbally, you can use the questions and answers box, and certainly you can interact by the chat. Well, to start with, I will give Dennise the first question. Dennise, since you've spoken about the first three P's of the five general one, and you focused on marketing bit, and we all know the consumer buying behavior, which starts with the problem recognition or need recognition at the beginning, before the consumer goes on the net and searches for the available items, products, or services, and before he makes a decision and goes into a post-decision behavior. So now, knowing that the traditional means of marketing, such as billboards, the press sometimes in some countries, all of this have been considered null, because we are all living and working, studying remotely, and there could be some curfews in some countries and so on. So knowing as well that Corona had its own impact on us and on all consumers and all of their behaviors as well. So what do you think that the post-Corona purchasing behavior would be like, and how can businesses market having these challenges and changes in mind?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question to see how the world will change. But actually, people are still people. There's still that human element where people want to engage on a personal level. And I would say what's very interesting is there may be an evolution of digital fatigue at the end of this process. So everybody's moved on to a virtual platform. You're now finding a lot of people that are very used to delivering face-to-face are actually struggling with a world of Zoom all of the time because it's a different engagement. So from a marketing perspective, I would say, don't forget the traditional channels such as direct mail. Now, it used to be that everybody, certainly in the UK, called it junk mail. And you had it come through the door and it's, oh no, someone's written to me again. What are they trying to sell me? I don't want this thing at the moment. Actually, now it's, someone's wrote me a letter. I've had a leaflet. How exciting. So where that change has taken place, it may not lead to a direct sale unless you've got a specific offer or a specific solution. So if you're in your house and someone puts a leaflet through your door to say, I offer a service that will come and trim the trees or your hedge or whatever. So this service is something that you have within your garden. Then you might think, actually, I have a tree, it needs attention. That could be the link to call the person who's put that leaflet through your door. If it's a postal leaflet, you've received a communication from someone, it might be that they're just saying, you were a client of yours, we value you, we want to know you're okay, and we're just letting you know that we're here and we'd like to hear from you if we can help you. So it's a written message to just say, I'm a business, we're keeping in touch, we're still here if you need us. Not an active sell at that moment, just a brand awareness exercise. And I think for many business types, it might be the case that actually in the shortest term, the best thing they can do is brand awareness, keeping people aware of your company, your service, your products. How is it that you can provide those services to people, by which means, and here's contact details if you want to reach back to us. Also amongst that, you may have a very specific offer that you know that you can help someone. So not in a world of profiteering, but if there's a way that you offer a service that's particularly desirable at the moment, for example, PPE, face masks, hand sanitizer, as Alison discussed, it might be that actually you're a local production facility and you can say to people in your local area, we've made this, it is now available, we wanted to give you the first chance to secure it, here is the details. That needs to be balanced, of course, with not profiteering, not doing something at multiple times the normal profit margin, because in this circumstance, people will have very long memories. If you behave badly now, that could be remembered for decades. So look at what you're actually doing in terms of your service, behave with ethics, link all of your behavior back to your company vision and values, and your marketing techniques are just an extension of that. What is it that you're doing really well? What service can you offer to people from your product or your knowledge? And how do you make that helpful in these times?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the answer. I would just add Mohamed Izzat's follow-up question on the same, which he's saying that customers are reluctant to do businesses nowadays. So the emphasis is on nowadays. I believe you answered this question. It is, how can we promote better during this period, during the period of the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, acknowledging that people are very mindful of their expenditure currently. Some of the things that you can do are potentially having delayed payment terms or payment plans. So you're making things more accessible for people. However, one thing Alison and I are totally united on is you should not give your product or service for free. You have to recognise that you are a business, and your clients need to recognise you're a business. And if they value you as a company, they want you to survive. And to be able to survive, you need to have turnover. So about how you effectively promote in this period where things are very difficult. You've got to have a product that people want. You may look at a temporary reduction in the price, but I would say don't give it away for free, because what you need to do is make sure you're a sustainable business and you can serve people in the future.
Thank you so much, Dennise. Absolutely. We have another question from Mohamed Amin Abdelaziz. I would turn this question to Alison. Alison, with the present crisis situation, what do you think would be the buying power of consumers, knowing the shift of priorities?
So I think that feeds back into what Dennise says. A lot of people are becoming quite desperate and they're giving discounts and they're not looking at the margin. So I think at the moment, again, I don't know the exact Middle East market, but if you look at the UK market, a lot of people are not spending as much money as they did. And again, not through choice. Does that make sense? So how it works here, people are still getting paid. So businesses are being given government grants, which they don't have to pay back. Their staff get furloughed, which means that they will get either 80% of their salary or 100% of their salary for not working. So they're not any worse off than they were pre the virus. But what we do have to have is how do we tap into that? Because I think people are more wary on how they spend. But that's where, again, you know, marketing and sales, this is where they do conjoin, and customer service. It's getting what they need. So if you look, we have still been getting Amazon deliveries for clothes that my sons are like, they're really keen, they like fashion, so they're still getting paid, so they're still spending money. I think from your marketing, it's making things desirable. So for us, you know, we look at what's happening in the tech market. There's lots of people who are, you know, still releasing new tech tools. We're buying new tech tools to try and improve our businesses. So I think it's thinking about things that are in demand. And that's where, when you've got something that's in demand, you tailor your market, get the marketing message to sound as if you're speaking specifically to them. And then that's where the sales comes. So I do believe that there is money in the economy across the world. I do believe now is a good time. What will happen post, people may lose their jobs, and that's when sales and marketing become a bit trickier. But at the moment, especially in a lot of countries, it's okay. And I think outside the box. So for me, I've got, I ran an event in Kuwait, which was branded the first event in the Middle East of its kind, talking about entrepreneurism and sales. And I still, again, some people in the audience may have been at that event, but I'm working internationally with someone in Kuwait, looking at how I can work with his business, help him get his marketing pitch ready and his sales pitch for investment. So doing things a bit differently, but the same message applies exactly as Mohamed said, pre, during, post. You're only delivering to what the customer needs, really.
Thank you, Alison, so much for answering that question. I will move on to Mohamed before I shift back to Dennise. Mohamed, we all know that 55% of our messages and communication are with our presence and with the body language, with the facial expressions, and the rest goes certainly to the voice tone and the words and etc. Now, with the Corona pandemic and how it affected our businesses, we're all going online. We buy online from the online platforms that are available. People are more reluctant to go to physical shops. They buy online. So how can we tell our service people, salesmen, to deliver the exceptional service online through their webcams, through their WhatsApp messages, which we can see now lots of businesses going even on WhatsApp sale or Instagram sale, or all the methods of social media, like taking the clients live to throughout their exhibitions and holding virtual events and virtual showrooms and etc. So how can we bring back that kind of service impact and element with the body language, with the smile, with etc. etc.
With the haircut. Thing is the haircut. All right, thank you, Hussain, for the question. I think what it boils down to is the credibility of the entity or the organization that's offering the service or the product. Now, we work on our credibility and authority in the fields we work in. For example, if you're a speaker, you need to have testimonials from your clients. So if someone wants to book me as a speaker for a future event, they go to my website. There's a section dedicated to testimonials, so they can see that. If I have a book like Alison and she tells me she has 135 5-star ratings on Amazon, that tells me something about the work she's doing and the credibility she has as a consultant and author. So it really depends on the sector. It depends on the sector. And usually when I speak about my book, the Chai Karak, the customer service story, I have this presentation, and at the end of the presentation, I always say, did you like the stories? Because all the stories that I bring are international stories from my travels. In fact, the virtual background you see over here is in Munich, and this is a picture that I took myself. So all these international experiences and the stories that I bring inspire the audiences that I meet. But when I'm about to finish the talk, I ask them, what did you think of the stories? They say, we love them. I said, look, I'm glad you love them, but let me tell you something. What I talked about is only customer service 101. Now people are talking about customer experience. And to reach that, you need to really upgrade how you look at the offering of the company, how do you deliver the products, the services. Now we have many websites that offer chatbots. These are artificial intelligence powered engines that can answer most queries of the customers. So ultimately, where companies should reach is to apply the technologies that are available and have their sales team focus on the large sales, high volume tickets, and that's what they should do. Because I would assume any company would think about building credibility, and when you build credibility, the sales process becomes easier on your sales team. So this is where things are going. Of course, there are things that we need to still to touch. If I become rich one day and go to the Rolls Royce dealership, I want to feel that Rolls Royce. If you make me wear virtual reality glasses to imagine the Rolls Royce, no, I want that will not make me buy the Rolls Royce. I need to go and smell the leather, to touch it, sit behind the steering wheel, and imagine myself driving in I don't know, Hollywood or somewhere else. But we need to assess the sectors we're operating in to decide the best strategy on how to deliver the marketing, the service, and the sale to our customers. So I'll end I can talk about this forever, but let's end it over there.
Thanks very much, Mohamed. Absolutely, the key word is credibility. So you're absolutely have spotted that keyword. Going back to Alison, I have a question from Jock Boyle that have you got any release date for your new book and any chance of a signed copy?
I brought my fan club with me today. So the new book based on the TEDx is called The Art of Getting What You Want. So the reason for the new book was a lot of people who were not in sales or business was reading Secrets of Successful Sales. So I couldn't quite work out why, but the feedback was a lot of it was helping them with relationships, negotiating on houses, in shops. And So I decided to take the case studies and extend the content. So it's called The Art of Getting What You Want. Again, more in a personal development space than a business space, although I think the two of them are completely conjoined. And we've now have 46,000 words of the book. I'm planning to have it as a January 2021 release, and certainly be happy to get you a signed copy, Jock Boyle.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Alison.
Can I comment on something, Hussain?
Yeah, sure.
Regarding the sales, many people think that if they are not in the profession of sales, they are not sales women or salesmen. And this is a myth. We're all in sales, regardless of our professional background, whether we're in HR, we need to sell the policies we're having. If we are the management, we need to inspire the employees to achieve the targets of the company. So we're in sales every day. In fact, my 4-year-old boy, Ali, he's the greatest salesman I've ever met in my life. He always say, "I love you, Baba. Can I get some ice cream?" So we're all in sales. We're all in sales.
Absolutely. Going to Dennise. Dennise, a question from Mohamed Amin Abdulaziz. What do you think would take place post-COVID-19 exploitation versus ethical business?
You know, that's interesting, isn't it? I think there'll be some of each. I think there'll be some businesses that do exploit an environment, but will somehow do it with charm, and people will forgive them, and therefore they will have a boost in their business. There will be some businesses that actually stick to their ethics, don't actually push anything, and possibly their business may not survive because they haven't been assertive enough. And there'll be those two complete ends of the spectrum. And I think the vast majority in the middle will be good businesses that have an eye to the commercial, that have a grounding in their ethics, and they will try and service people. And they will be in the majority. I do believe that people that are overtly exploitive will not be forgiven. And they will not have a business. We now live in a world of immediate coverage. So if someone does something to upset someone, you've got a one-to-many communication channel through social media where they can vent their frustration very, very quickly. These things gain a lot of traction, and by human nature alone, people are somehow more connected to deliver bad news than good news sometimes about customer service. So if they've had a bad experience, I'm sure Mohamed and Alison would be able to confirm the statistics, but say bad news, you will tell 10 people, good news, you might tell one person. So if you're looking at that magnification of how messaging travels, I think that businesses that actually are ethical will be the ones that will succeed. I don't think people expect ethical at the cost of all other elements of the business, because it is a capital generating activity, unless you're a charity, in which case even charities' behaviour is going to be very keenly judged. So if they see that actually advertising messaging is off, or it seems like there's a disconnect between messaging through one channel and another, then a lot of people will then think about how they support a charity. And it will be the same with the business. It'll be what is the connectivity of how people present themselves, their messaging, and joining that with the experience. If your messaging is saying you're empathetic and you're delivering great service, and the reality of that service is that you haven't cared about someone, you've gone back to the Rolls Royce, and I mean, I can't imagine why someone didn't ask for one in purple, but you know, if you went in and asked for one in purple, you would expect to be told, yes, madam, you can have one. And by the way, if anybody wants to send them, I'd rather have a Lamborghini if that's okay, but that's fine. Purple would be good. And hey, even a purple pencil sharpener makes me happy. So it's one of those things. What is it the audience wants? If you've got a disconnect between your messaging and delivery, then that's when the problem will come.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Dennise. And I have now an open question for whoever would like to answer it from Prem Shankar. Can you share some light on consumer behavior post-COVID-19? Will they go back to old days or will there be a shift?
I guess the ones with the longest hair could answer that.
Will I answer? I think there will definitely be a shift. I think there'll be a shift in everything because, again, coming back to what I was talking about on change, I think that it's interesting. It's about habit forming, isn't it? Because it takes 28 times to make a habit. So the first few times when people would be using Zoom, they would be dragging their heels because they were kind of made to do it. And again, the metaphysiophobia would kick in and they wouldn't want to change. Whereas now people are used to that. So if you were wanting to, again, have a meeting with someone and it was, say it was in one of the Emirates, you would think, well, why would I bother flying or driving or do, you know, obviously you've got to get off Beri, but, you know, why would I travel that distance when actually I can sit in my office or my home and have that? But I do think that we are social people. I think, you know, coming back to the origins of species, we, as part of Maslow's hierarchy, we need to have the community around us. So I do think that we will go back to, you know, meeting friends, to dining out, to traveling, to going away. And again, I think there was another question about the travel industry that I think that it will take a while because people are still scared for their health. But I think in some ways it's interesting because I think we've become quite complacent as a society and business. I think it's going to make us quicker, slicker, and more to the point, more focused. And again, people are now really aware of what they sell and what they spend. And I think that will stick as we move forward. That I do think that it will be a combination approach from there. Hopefully that makes sense.
I think we've got an interesting environment as well, that this is a circumstance that nobody's ever seen before. We're used to recessions in one given economy or one market sector, and we've never been faced with a global pandemic on this scale where entire economies are shut down. So there will be a difference in how people behave. And in prior recessions, the data we've got looking backward, those that have invested in marketing and sales during the recession have come out stronger and come out quickest. I think what we have to recognise that maybe future isn't indicated by past in these circumstances, because there'll be sectors that have performed well. So rather than saying all markets will behave in the same way, I actually believe it will be a market by market, region by region approach. And that's what you need to look for in your marketing strategies, to actually say, where am I identifying the uptake could be? Now, if you've always served a given industry type and that's not one of the ones that's been more buoyant, then you may need to change your focus. That said, there'll be different recovery rates in the industries as well, and it's still about brand awareness, the service that you offer, and if you're offering that service and people know what it is that you provide, they can then connect with you to provide that.
Can I join back in again? It actually feeds back into the 2 questions ago, but it links into this about the profiteering and again, ethical business. So Mohamed, I've got a little story to tell as well now. Good. So what happened, I was on a Zoom networking event a couple of weeks ago, and there was a woman on the call who was talking about PPE. They had pivoted their business and they now had the masks and all the PPE equipment. Now, it's a well-known fact that in the UK, we were caught very short. We didn't have enough for the National Health Service, let alone, you know, the everyday person in their homes. And what happened was not everybody was really struggling to get it. So there'd been a demand created, which again, from a marketing perspective and a sales perspective, it's amazing to create a demand, but it was also creating scams. And what happened was there was a nursing home who had COVID patients who were passing away because they just didn't have the tools that they needed. And what happened was somebody set up a scam website and they were taking the orders for the PPE equipment, somebody placed a £60,000 order, which I don't know what that is in your currency, but it's a lot of money. 3 days later, the website folded. So I would imagine the marketing strategy they used was price, because again, if you are looking to save money and you see you can get PPE equipment at a rock bottom price, it's a good hook to get in, but it doesn't always mean that it's ethical business. You know, and coming back to everything Dennise and Mohamed have said, you know, did it have testimonials? Did it have all the qualifying factors? Did it have a rating like an Amazon rating? Does it have that? If not, then you have to be really careful. I think it's being careful where you spend your cash, because there's always somebody out there at the moment that's wanting to take your cash and not be ethical. So I think that's something we've seen, because it's desperation, you know. And again, coming back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if people don't feel that their safety needs or their physiological needs are being met, they do desperate things. And I think this is what we'll see, is a lot of people doing desperate things.
Excellent. Can I add something over here, Hussain?
Yes.
I think this crisis has made more companies realize the importance of investing in technology. In the past, whenever you asked for a budget for an upgrade in your infrastructure, the managing director or the CEO, the board of directors, they will tell you no budgets. I know someone who works in a very reputed company, and they were relaxed, not relaxed 100% when the crisis hit us, the Corona crisis. But he told me they have been ready for such a crisis since 2001. When Corona hit, they sent an email to all the staff, tomorrow don't come to office. You can work from home, because they had all the right infrastructure in place. Now, this is a local company in Bahrain. There is an international brand. I don't want to name them to shame them, but this brand is worth 2.5 billion euros. And they are into the coffee business. And they were caught off guard by this crisis. They didn't have any online ways of taking orders or deliveries. And when they started, because when you are hit by crisis, you become like crazy, you don't know what to do. So they offered this online ordering service for their coffee. And these are coffee capsules, not the coffee you drink. And their delivery time was 5 to 7 days. Do you think as a customer, I would wait for my coffee capsules for 5 to 7 days? So this will make most businesses re-examine their business models and their offerings to their customers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's a big hit to everyone.
Yep. Now, thanks Dennise, thanks Alison, and thanks Mohamed for answering that question. May I, before having a verbal question from Mohamed Izzat, may I launch a poll which says, has COVID-19 affected your sales? So dear attendees, can we see your results? Can you vote and find out? We all represent basically the business community, all of us in this panel and the audience as well. So let's see if there are any answers which does not reflect. Meanwhile, Mohamed Izzat, I would allow you to ask the question verbally. Please interact with the speakers.
He's on a mute.
Mohamed Izzat, you can unmute yourself. Okay, until you have and until you unmute yourself, we will check the results of our participants. Ladies and gentlemen, we can see that 93% of our audience believes that yes, COVID-19 have affected our sales. Is that expected, Mohamed, Dennise, and Alison?
Yeah, absolutely. I can see why it would be that polarized as well. It's a global event. And yeah, that's not a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
So it's 93% of businesses affected, as we are a sample of the business community. Yeah. Until as well, if you don't have any more questions, I will take a final tip and a final advice for businesses for the post-corona period from each of our distinguished speakers. So we will start with you, Dennise, if you can.
Okay.
What's the final?
So yeah, my top tip to leave you with is keep communicating. Make sure your message is consistent, authentic, and in line with your visions, but keep communicating.
Right, and Alison, if you could have a tip and an advice for the business community.
So marketing is not sales. When you engage with people, you need to actually be asking them good questions. It hasn't changed, but it's really trying to find out. You're not going to sell to everyone, so don't go, buy my product, buy my product, buy my product. It's what's happening with you, what are the challenges in your business, what, if anything, can I provide that will make your business better? So again, and they really digging in deep into what the customer needs, and if it matches, sell it. If it doesn't, don't, because if you sell it and it's not the right product or service, it's only going to add in bad customer service, and that leads in really nicely to Mohamed.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alison, before I move to the tip from Mohamed, Alison, you mentioned something really important with the mindsets in your presentation, and the negative mindsets and the positive mindsets. Now, for salespeople today, they come naturally, and because of this pandemic, with a negative mindset. No, there is no budget, they cannot buy from us, they shut the door continuously, and they're not allowing us in, and so from these thoughts and mindset. So what would you advise such salespeople?
I would say with a negative mindset, you're going to struggle to sell, because straight away it affects how your tone, your pace, your body language. What I would say, if pre-virus you would meet up for people, or you would pick up the phone, and now you're struggling to get a hold of them, use things like LinkedIn, really engaging conversations. And it's not put a LinkedIn message and we do this and we do that and we do the next thing. It's not, you know, people ask me, how did I manage to speak at the event in Kuwait? Well, that came from one person viewing my profile. They weren't a first connection, but I took that conversation 3 or 4 years ago to a Skype call, and then that led to me doing that. So if you're not using tools like LinkedIn, or you're using them by going, buy my product, buy my product, buy my service, that's where you need to spend your time learning. So you need to shift your mindset or you won't sell. That's non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Alison. Now with the final pieces of advice from you, Mohamed, on service.
Thank you, Hussain and Alison, for leading to my tip. Treat all your customers as VIPs. You never know who's coming next to your showroom to buy a Rolls Royce. That's one. The second one I want to emphasize, and I thank Alison for bringing LinkedIn up. LinkedIn has their own sales academy, and you can access all their resources for free. So make use of that tool. You're staying at home. You may not be doing so many calls like before. So use your time to sharpen the saw. So when this is over, you go and get your sales up, 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 all the way.
Absolutely. I have a question to our audience. It's a simple question, which, يعني, to see how they would think of the future. So, our distinguished audience, what do you think? Are you optimistic for the post-corona period?
I answered, but I won't tell you what I said. And after the results, I would like to comment if you allow me.
Sure, sure.
I want to see the results and then I'll comment.
Well, we've got about 92% of our audience believe of some optimism for the post-corona period. Mohamed, yeah?
Well, I'm happy to see these results, because usually people are always down these days, and I'll tell you something. When we launched this book on startups, it's all about entrepreneurship. Someone commented, "You should have published a book on how to close a business." And I thought, no, you know, many great businesses were started during crisis. So regardless of the situation, if you have the will, you have the commitment, you have the discipline, you do something good about it.
Yeah. Now, I have a comment which I will direct to Dennise. Something from Osama Jabri. Osama says that crisis is an opportunity to change and keep changing. So taking his comment, Dennise, with making challenges and risks, since you in your presentation have discussed a SWOT analysis, how can we as businesses turn such challenges, especially this crisis, into an opportunity?
Yeah, I think we recognize actually what community we are. If we're business people, we have hopefully a growth mindset. We have an entrepreneurial spirit, and that will be because of the sample of the audience type. I was hoping we'd have that fundamental result of everybody being optimistic, because if we're not, nobody else is going to be. We spend a lot of time listening to people who, you know, will drag us down. And I think that's why a lot of times now people have limited their social media content. They've limited the amount of news that they're listening to, because it becomes a doom spiral, and the doom spiral only goes downward. We don't need that as entrepreneurs. We are business owners. We provide solutions to problems. So yes, in crisis, it's been proven that every previous crisis, there's been massive moves forward in technology. It's been shown during wars. It's been shown during economic crisis. When things are at their toughest, innovators provide new solutions and move things forward. So I think that comment is very well educated. Yes, it is a case that the past situation won't reflect what the future situation is. There'll be some businesses that are very future facing, that can pivot their business, that can adjust and take their clients with them. And there'll be some that can't. And there'll be some people that say, actually, I can't operate in this new world. I want to call it a day. But the vast majority of business owners are in growth mindset, have an entrepreneurial spirit, and will be looking how they can actually move forward. And that's what people need to do. Even if it's a baby step, keep moving forward.
Thank you so much, Dennise. It is 12:50 for the closing remarks. In the closing remarks, I would like to thank the leaders of the 9 Training Center for their continuous support and offering such webinars. It is now a weekly session, either through a live Instagram session or through a webinar dedicated to different segments. And today we had amazing speakers. We had Ms. Alison Edgar from the UK. We thank you, Alison, so much for your participation. We thank you for sharing your expertise and knowledge, especially with the 3 P's for sales. And as well, we had Dennise Oleary. We thank you so much for your insights, for your highlights, for your up-to-date advice to all marketeers, and focusing on the 2 P's of the 5 essential P's of marketing and sales. And as well, we thank Mohamed Isa for all of his service-oriented pieces of information, tips, and suggestions to all of us to try and get back into business as soon as possible, and to shift our orientation to become future-oriented, to become more towards a post-corona period with all motivation and commitment. So thanks, Dennise, Alison, and Mohamed. I would like as well to thank Ms. Gopika Beri for making it a real webinar by bringing such expertise from around the world. I would like to thank Sheikh Noura Al Khalifa, the chairwoman of the 9 Training Center, for her initiatives, which has, it's her vision to introduce such webinars in this period of time. I can see lots of training centers, and I'm speaking about Bahrain, have closed down or have shut their businesses during this period. Yet, and however, Sheikh Noura's initiatives was to ensure that we continue and we adapt to the changes and challenges, and this webinar is an evidence. So thanks, Sheikh Noura, if you can hear us through one of the channels, and a special thanks and gratitude goes to the attendees, to the participants for their participation, engagement, interaction through questions and answers. Thanks to those who are following us on live on Facebook. And I would like to invite everybody to please leave your feedback on the following link. This will give us some of insights and what you would like to see from us as a 9 Training Center, which topics you would like to see, and certainly provide a feedback on the session that we are running at the moment. We will issue some thank you notes, thank you certificates of attendance for those who would leave their details in the evaluation form. Please, ladies and gentlemen, these are the 9 Training Center's social media platforms. 9 Training Center is our Instagram channel. We have updated it with a webinar that we had, a session by Her Excellency Sayyida Basma from Oman. She was speaking about mindfulness in difficult times, and especially during Corona time, which is applicable as well for all our marketeers and salespeople. Please watch that 20 minutes lecture on our social media, on our Instagram, 9 Training Center. And you will find it very useful to become mindful. And I recall Alison's suggestion of being mindful during this period of time as well. So last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you post-Eid. After Eid, we will have another session which is dedicated to finance. We will have, again, international speakers on this topic, this important topics of finance. The date has not been decided yet, but you can follow the social media and you can find the ad once it's ready. So last but not least, thanks, Dennise, again, thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks, Mohamed. It was a pleasure having you all. It was a privilege to have such expertise in one webinar together. As I said earlier, it's a jigsaw that we completed together with marketing, sales, and service. The 3 pillars that we would like to boost our businesses with in post-Corona. We have a great audience who are all optimistic for the post-Corona period. So please follow each one of the speakers. Dennise has shared her email ID. You can follow her on her Instagram as well. Alison, similarly, and Mohamed as well. If you can leave your Instagram accounts or however you would like to be contacted in the chat as well before we finish and this beautiful and fruitful and beneficial meeting. Mohamed is at Mohamed Isa 3DS, which is 3D speaking. Alison is at the Alison Edgar, and certainly Dennise has shared her email as well. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much, and may I wish you all a happy Eid, a happy period of relaxation, of a breakfast, and acceptable prayers and moments of the holy month of Ramadan. That's Dennise's social media at Purple Marketing. You can follow her to get lots of insights. All of our speakers were great and beautiful. Thanks, everybody. Eid Mubarak to you all in advance, 5 days to come. And we all are optimistic and looking forward for a post-corona period. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Dennise.
Hello.
I'll invite you to a Zoom meeting now.